Exposed, how one incredible night healed a billionaire's heart, a touching, life-changing journey. Nolan Harrington stood on the balcony of his grand mansion, gazing down at the tiny Midwestern town below. He watched the flickering lights of the annual Harvest Festival, a scene of joy and warmth that should have filled him with fond memories. Instead, it only deepened the chasm in his heart. Years of isolation had molded him into a ghost, a relic of his once celebrated success. The laughter of townsfolk cut through him like icy blades. He was a billionaire, a man who could buy anything, yet here he was, alone, longing for human connection. Stepping inside, he tucked away shadows of loneliness with a decision that felt monumental. He would attend the festival. He dressed carefully, his tailored suit a stark contrast to the denim and flannel of the townspeople. The cold evening air brushed against his skin, but it was nothing compared to the weight he carried inside. The sounds of children laughing and families coming together filled his ears. He inhaled deeply, the sweet sense of homemade pies and fresh cider flooding his senses with nostalgia. As he walked, he could barely meet the eyes of those who had once admired him. Their smiles faltered, whispers floated, and camaraderie thrived just out of reach. Everything reminded him of what he had lost: his family, the laughter, the connection. At that moment, he caught sight of Maria, a single mother balancing her two small children as she conversed with her tight-knit group of friends. No matter her status, her spirit was palpable. There was a fire behind her words. A promise of resilience. Their gazes met, and for a minute, the vastness of their differences disappeared. They were no longer parts of separate worlds. Maria spoke of hardship, hope, and the everyday battles of her life, her voice rising above the noise of the festival. Nolan felt the knot in his throat tighten, emotions swirling in an endless cycle he had long tried to ignore. Here was someone who needed help yet wore her challenges as badges of honor. He recognized the pain swallowed by her unwavering smile, a reflection of his own bottled despair. Just as he began to feel a spark of connection, a rumble echoed in the distance. The river, usually gentle, had transformed into a beast, surging and threatening to flood the streets. Chaos unfolded. Families grabbed what they could as panic seized the festival, laughter morphing into screams. Nolan's heart raced. The choice hung above him: retreat again into his bubble of wealth or stand alongside those who had once looked up to him. He charged into the pandemonium, joining hands with Maria and her neighbors, determination flooding through him as they formed a human chain to save belongings from the rising water. Names were shouted, children cried, and for the first time in years, Nolan felt alive. In those frantic moments, he confronted not just the floodwaters but the flood of memories and the distance he had created. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Every face in that crowd showed resilience and solidarity. With every item salvaged, with every hand extended, he felt the walls around him begin to crumble. Could this night truly bridge the gap that loneliness and choice had forged? Whispers of hope mingled with the rushing waters, creating an anthem of survival. As he slipped deeper into the heart of the chaos, an unbearable tightness in his chest transformed into a burning desire to reconnect not just with the community but with the family he had lost. Touch with. There, in the midst of rising waters, stood the question of his future. Would he finally break free from the shadows he had lived in, or would he allow the flood to carry him back into the life of solitude? As he fought against the current, the night took on an unexpected urgency, leaving uncertainty hanging over him like the storm clouds above. The water surged higher, lapping at their feet as the human chain forged ahead. Nolan felt the weight of the moment pressing against him. Each shout, each burst of laughter mixed with fear, ignited something inside him that he thought was long extinguished. As he lifted a floating crate, children squealed and adults cheered, their hope buoying him even as the chaos threatened to overwhelm. Maria was at his side, her face a blend of determination and urgency. "Keep moving. We can't let it take everything." Her voice cut through the noise like a beacon. In that moment, Nolan saw her not just as a survivor but as a leader, someone who inspired by sheer will. He took note of the way her eyes danced with purpose, and he couldn't help but wonder what might happen if they worked together beyond this night. Suddenly, a loud crash interrupted his thoughts. A section of the boardwalk buckled under the pressure of the water, sending a cascade of debris crashing down. A scream erupted from nearby, drawing Nolan's attention. A little girl, separated from her parents, stood frozen, her wide eyes drowning in panic. Nolan's heart raced. This was the moment that could define him. Without hesitation, he sprinted towards her, dodging the swirling chaos around him. "Hey, it's okay. I'm here. Just take my hand," he called out, holding his arm out. She hesitated for a split second before reaching out, her tiny fingers gripping his firmly. As he pulled her close, he scanned the area. Where were her parents? "Over there." She pointed, her voice shaking. And there they were, two frantic people searching the crowd, utterly lost in despair. Nolan motioned for them to come closer, and relief washed over him when he saw the mother's face break into tears upon spotting her daughter. As they reunited, Nolan's pulse slowed. In that fleeting instance, something clicked. He wasn't just a billionaire, he was a man capable of making a difference. As Maria rejoined him, her smile lit up even the darkest moments overshadowed by the flood. "They'll be okay," she said, her voice soft with warmth. "You did well." Nolan looked at her, overlaid with the chaos of their surroundings, and felt grounded for the first time in years. The connection between them felt real, raw, and with every heartbeat, the loneliness he once wore like a shroud fell away. He could see a glimpse of a future beyond solitude if only he dared to reach for it. The night pushed on, fueled by extraordinary camaraderie. Laughter found its way back to the festival amidst the debris, stories exchanged where fear once reigned. People united, not just in survival, but in rebuilding a vibrant community emerging from the downfall. But as the water receded and the townsfolk began to assess the damage, Nolan's thoughts drifted. What would happen when the festival lights turned off? Would this sense of purpose last, or would he find his way back to the shadows of his mansion, back to isolation? As he looked to Maria, he silently wondered if their paths could intertwine beyond this moment of chaos. "Nolan," she called, drawing him from his reverie. "We need to help with the cleanup. Together?" He nodded, determination shuffling through him again. "Together," he echoed, and as they moved toward the heart of the community, a realization dawned: life was waiting on the other side of fear, and maybe, just maybe, so was love. What lay ahead? Would he muster the courage to let someone in, or would the cynicism of his past rise to guard his heart once more? As the remnants of the festival sprawled out before them, a tapestry of broken booths and scattered decorations, Nolan and Maria delved deeper into their mission. They moved with a sense of shared purpose, picking up pieces of what remained, their laughter becoming a powerful thread that stitched together the frayed edges of their community. The night air was thick with the sounds of recovery. The distant hum of generators mingled with the steady clatter of nails being hammered and voices raised in encouragement. It felt electric, as if the very spirit of the town was humming back to life. Each time they found something worth salvaging, cheers erupted, forging a bond stronger than the tumult of water that had swept through just hours before. "Look at this!" Nolan exclaimed, lifting a upturned picnic table. It struggled against the weight of the mud caked on it, but as he and Maria worked together to free it, the table slipped free, revealing a scattering of untouched plates beneath. Laughter erupted from nearby, and they couldn't help but share in the joy of such a simple find. Little moments like these felt monumental. It fueled his growing desire to keep this connection alive, to not retreat into himself again. In the midst of all this, though, Nolan sensed a tension lurking. He felt it in the way Maria's smiles sometimes faltered, how she occasionally glanced away when the conversation turned toward the future. It was as if she was grappling with a weight he couldn't see. "What are you thinking?" he asked gently one evening as they took a breather, leaning against the cargo truck that had been transformed into a makeshift supply hub. "Just I want this to last," she said, staring into the dark waters, swirling remnants of fear still grappling with the remnants of hope. "You know how quickly things can change. I came here because I needed a new start. I don't want to return to what I've left behind. I'm just scared, Nolan." As her honesty hung in the air between them, he felt an ache in his chest. "You're not alone in this. I'm scared too." It's easy to slip back into the comfortable numbness. He wanted to say more, to reassure her that those moments of connection didn't have to fade, but he didn't know how. Words felt inadequate, like trying to catch smoke with bare hands. Then, in that vulnerability, a moment of stark clarity washed over him. He stepped closer and took her hands, grounding them both amid the ruins. "We're building something together. We have to fight for it. For each other." Maria's eyes shimmered under the remnants of festival lights, a quiet hope flickering within them. "Do you really think we can?" His heart pounded. "I know we can. We just need to be brave enough to face whatever comes, together." The power behind this promise resonated between them. He squeezed her hands, feeling an undeniable spark. The connection grew deeper, transforming the repair work into something much greater, a chance to rebuild not just their lives, but their futures, entwined. But just as she began to lean into the moment, a loud shout sliced through the night, pulling their attention. A group of townsfolk was crowding around a large pile of debris, frantically waving their arms. Instinct kicked in as Nolan and Maria rushed forward, curiosity overshadowed by a sense of urgency. What had they found? Whatever it was stirring fear and excitement in equal measure. In the midst of this pressing urgency, Nolan felt something shift. There was a storm brewing tonight, but not just of water, of choices that lay before them. Would they emerge from this as more than survivors? Would their hearts be open enough to embrace what was to come? As they drew closer, the feeling of impending change crackled in the air. What would they uncover that might alter the course of their journey together? Nolan and Maria pushed through the throng of townsfolk, a mix of curiosity and apprehension bubbling in their chests. The crowd buzzed with whispers, fluctuating between disbelief and excitement. As they neared the pile of debris, a figure emerged from within Dominic, the local mechanic, hollering something about a miracle find. "What is going on?" Maria asked, breathless, as she strained to catch a glimpse of their friend. With some jostling, they found a clearing, and there it was, half buried in mud and splintered wood. A gleaming object, unmistakable in the wreckage. A metal sculpture of a phoenix, vibrant and seemingly untouched by the chaos that had enveloped everything else. The flames of its wings appeared to catch the last glimmers of the festival lights, sparking a radiance in the gloom. "It's stunning." Maria breathed, her hand instinctively reaching out to cup her mouth. It's beautiful." Nolan echoed, unable to shake the feeling that this finding was emblematic, as if it could rise from the ashes just like the community was trying to do. The spectators held their collective breath, as if marveling at the artwork as a symbol, a talisman of new beginnings. Dominic knelt beside the sculpture, brushing mud off with careful touches. This thing was a centerpiece at the festival years back. Who would have thought it would survive? "Maybe it's a sign," someone whispered from the back. The crowd hung onto each word, the rising hope swirling in the air like the embers of a bonfire. For Nolan, it was electrifying. He glanced at Maria, the way her eyes sparkled with possibility. Could something as simple as a sculpture reignite a shared passion, a community's dream? "Let us clean it up and put it back on display," Maria said, her smile wide and infectious, taking charge of the moment, and igniting a flurry of enthusiasm around them. Right then, Nolan felt a jolt of energy fill the space. Hands reached toward the phoenix, some grabbing rags from pockets, others bringing buckets of water. Each motion felt like a step toward recovery, a beautiful chaos of teamwork and laughter that rose above the lingering fear. "We'll rebuild our festival around it," Maria declared, determination etched into her features. "It'll be the symbol of our hope." The crowd roared, buoyed by the idea, willing to breathe life back into their traditions. As excitement rippled through the streets, he took a moment to soak it all in, the raw joy, the connectedness they were forging with each other. The feeling swelled inside him, stitching away the doubts he held. But still, as they all rallied around the sculpture, an unsettling thought flickered at the edge of his mind. What if the weight of the past didn't just linger in memories? What if it was tied to something bigger, something darker? He caught a glimpse of Maria, animatedly discussing the phoenix with a few committee members, the fire in her eyes igniting hope, but that shadow loomed. "Hey, Maria!" he called out, hesitating on the edge of his lingering anxiety, wanting to pull her back into the promise of their connection. "Yeah?" She turned, her face warm with vigor, yet fleeting traces of her previous solemnity brushed across her brow. "What if there's more to this?" he ventured, more than just rising from the flood? What if Maria's smile wavered and then strengthened? "We'll face whatever comes, Nolan. Together." The confidence in her voice brought some comfort. But as Nolan glanced back at the phoenix, there was an unshakable sense that the challenges ahead were just beginning. What did her words mean in the face of realities they hadn't yet faced? As the townsfolk rallied around their discovery, a sudden crack of thunder rolled through the night, echoing ominously. The air shifted, the tension palpable. Would this night be the beginning of transformation or something else entirely? With the distant rumble in the background matching the heartbeat of this evening's energy, he wondered what else would be unearthed in their quest to rise again. What secrets did the night still hold, ready to expose? Deeper truths? The storm clouds swirled, darkening the sky above. The crowd gathered around the phoenix. Despite the oncoming tempest, the low murmurs of hope and determination persisted, wrapping around them like a comforting blanket. Maria stood at the forefront, her fingers dancing over the smooth metal surface of the sculpture, as if trying to absorb its past and future all at once. "Nolan!" she shouted over the rising winds, "we need to get it back to the square. It was the heart of our festival, and it deserves to shine again." He nodded, a fresh wave of energy surging through him. "You're right. Let us make it happen." The townsfolk embraced their mission. They formed a human chain, grasping the sculpture with care, and began the trek to the square. The rain began to patter down, but no one seemed to mind. The metal phoenix gleamed, reflecting the glow of their flashlights and the flickering lights around them. Each step felt like a small victory against the forces that had sought to break them. As they moved, the rain intensified, but with every drop that fell, laughter erupted. A child slipped, sliding into a puddle, and the crowd erupted in laughter, the joyous sound piercing through the murkiness of the night. A wave of warmth spread through Nolan, filling him with the clarity that in this moment, they were not just moving the sculpture, they were embracing life again. "Hey, look at that!" someone shouted, pointing to a streetlight flickering to life nearby. The small miracle caught on, with people cheering not just for the light but for the hope it ignited within. Minutes felt like seconds as they finally reached the square, their pace quickening with anticipation. Dominic took charge and helped position the phoenix at the center, dusting it off one last time. "It's time to bring back what we lost," he said firmly. The crowd gathered, with some faces illuminated by the light of cell phones, capturing this moment in real time. Maria stepped up, her voice ringing strong above the buzzing. "This phoenix isn't just metal. It represents our resilience. Tonight, we remind ourselves what it means to rise from the ashes together." As she spoke, the storm broke loose, raindrops splashing intensely against the ground, but no one moved. Eyes were locked on half-buried memories now resurrected. The spirit of the phoenix blazed brightly in their midst. A flicker of lightning lit the night sky as if the universe itself was affirming Maria's words. Cheering erupted, and they began to chant the town's name, a declaration of unity and strength. But the excitement was laced with an undercurrent of something deeper, something raw and real. Nolan felt the intensity mount. His heart raced. It was rooted both in the exhilaration of the moment and the fear of the unknown. Emotions flooded him. What would they face next? Would this resurgence truly bring the change they sought? Suddenly, a loud crack echoed as a seemingly impossible bolt of lightning struck a nearby tree, splitting it in two. Gasps arose from the crowd, eyes wide in shock. The adrenaline surged, and Nolan spun towards Maria, who stood frozen. "What's happening?" he asked, worry creeping into his tone. But Maria remained transfixed on the spot where the tree had stood moments before. "We need to be ready," she finally whispered, her expression shifting from determination to a look of sudden realization. "This is bigger than us. There's more at stake here." Nolan felt goosebumps dance up his arms. What did she mean? Was this statue truly a symbol, or had they just unlocked something better left untouched? As the lightning danced above, illuminating faces in flashes of brilliance, Nolan clutched Maria's hand tightly. These surroundings felt charged, electric with both potential and peril. What had they awakened, and would they be able to handle it together? The air buzzed with tension as they stood, united but uncertain, in the square. And in that moment, they realized tonight was only just the beginning. What other secrets lay buried beneath the surface, waiting to be revealed? Nolan's heart pounded in his chest as he remained glued to Maria's side. The air crackled not just with electricity, but with an unshakable tension. The crowd shifted nervously, eyes darting between the splintered tree and the vibrant phoenix that had come to life in their hearts. A man near the front, his bald head glistening with rain, cleared his throat, attempting to steady the crowd. "Look!" he called out, voice echoing surprisingly loud against the backdrop of thunder. "We've faced storms before. If we can stand strong together, we'll rise again." His words ignited murmurs of agreement. Slowly, courage began to ripple through the masses, every heartbeat sinking in a collective rhythm of resilience. Then, as if summoned by their resolve, another bolt of lightning arced across the sky, illuminating the surrounding darkness. The crowd gasped once more, but this time, there was no fear, just wonder and awe. Strangely enough, it felt as if the heavens were watching over them, granting them the strength they needed to confront the unknown. Maria turned to Nolan, her eyes sparkling despite the rain. "We didn't just bring back a statue," she said, excitement bubbling in her voice. "We've sparked something in everyone here. Tonight is about more than the festival. It's about healing, about community." Nolan squeezed her hand tighter, feeling an odd mix of hope and dread. "But what if we're not ready for what comes next?" he blurted out, the words spilling from him before he could stop. Maria glanced back at the thundering clouds, gathering power up above. "What if we are?" she challenged, her expression determined. "What if this is the moment we've been waiting for?" All around them, the crowd began to chant their town's name again, this time with greater fervor. Children joined hands with their parents, friends embraced, and old neighbors smiled at one another, united in this moment of creation amidst chaos. Suddenly, from the back of the crowd, an elderly woman stepped forward, her white hair billowing like a halo in the wind. Though small in stature, she commanded attention. "We've lived through worse storms, my friends," she declared, voice both tender and powerful. "Each time we rise, we grow stronger. Let us light this fire within us." Inspired by her words, the crowd cheered, their voices rising to the skies like a palpable force. Maria's heart swelled as she realized that the phoenix wasn't just a sculpture, it was a beacon for everyone who had struggled, a reminder that together they could endure anything. But then, something began to shift. The ground trembled beneath their feet, and Nolan felt an unsettling vibration resonate through him. "Maria," he started, but she was already looking around, her eyes wide, searching for the source. "What is happening?" she whispered, as the crowd fell into a hush that felt almost conspiratorial, the kind of stillness before a storm. Lightning flashed again, closer this time, casting a bright light on something new, an object emerging from the ground near the statue. The buzz in the air shifted from exhilaration to confusion, thrill to trepidation. As people craned their necks, trying to see, Nolan felt a gripping anxiety writhe in his stomach. "What is that?" he asked, bewildered. Maria's gaze remained fixed on the emerging object, her breath catching as it twisted in the light. "I don't know, but it looks important." The uncertainty wrapped around him like a tightening noose. What could it possibly be? They had fought so hard for hope, connected through hardship, and yet here was a new mystery surface, alluring but potentially dangerous. Was this yet another trial? Or something truly transformative beyond their wildest dreams? As the townsfolk converged to witness the spectacle, the ground continued to vibrate. Nolan exchanged a look with Maria, each of them silently asking the same question: "Are we ready for what comes next?" The object shimmered brightly, illuminated by lightning and the flickering illumination of hope. Whatever it was about to change everything. But would they be too late to act on it? Time spun on, as uncertainty loomed and possibilities hovered tantalizingly just out of reach. The object, now fully unveiled against the stormy sky, revealed itself as a beautifully crafted urn, glistening with droplets of rain. It appeared ancient yet full of life, swirling patterns etched into its surface. The crowd drew closer, curiosity overriding hesitation. Whispers bounced through the air, the excitement palpable. "Do you think it belonged to someone important?" Nolan asked, eyes wide with awe. Maria nodded, her expression filled with a mix of hope and uncertainty. "It feels significant," she replied, taking a cautious step toward it. "Maybe it's a marker of something we haven't yet discovered." The murmurs of the townsfolk intensified, reverberating with theories. Some mentioned the town's history, tales of how ancestors used to bury treasures for future generations. Others speculated it held the spirit of the phoenix, an emblem of rebirth that they had just revived. "You know, it reminds me of how we feel tonight," Nolan said, glancing at Maria. "Like we're all somehow connected to this moment. As if our struggles are blending into something beautiful." The rain picked up, each drop heavier than before, hitting the ground like tiny drums. Yet, the crowd stood stronger, bound together in this shared experience. Nolan watched as older folks exchanged knowing looks, and children challenged their parents to share old stories, weaving a tapestry of nostalgia and hope. Suddenly, Maria bent down, her fingers brushing the intricate design on the urn. "It's warm," she exclaimed, glancing up at Nolan. Her eyes sparkled with an energy that lit her face, even in the gloom of the storm. She was drawn to it, as if the urn was calling not just to her, but to everyone surrounding it. Then, a gasp rippled through the crowd as the urn began to shake, softly at first, then more violently. Its surface glowed brighter, illuminating the rain-soaked faces of those around it. Nolan felt a pulse, an ancient heartbeat that synchronized with his own, reverberating through his bones. "Is it alive?" he murmured, fear and wonder knitting together in his chest. "It's changing," Maria breathed, entranced. "Look!" The swirling patterns on the urn began to shift and morph, revealing images of the town's past. People danced in celebration, families gathered in unity, moments of strength and resilience gleamed vividly before their eyes. Together they saw their ancestors, living, thriving despite the storms they faced. Tears brimmed Maria's eyes as she whispered, "We can't forget where we came from. It's like this is reminding us of our roots, of who we are." Nolan's heart raced. The stories in the images were their stories, ones he had heard but never truly understood until now. Each depicted moment felt like a stitch in the fabric connecting their past to their present, a reminder that they weren't alone. They were a community emboldened by shared history. The crowd erupted in cheers, voices rising in jubilation as they began singing the town's anthem, each note swelling with renewed spirit. The sense of unity surged like a wave, lifting everyone's spirits. But amidst the celebration, a shadow crept into Nolan's thoughts. What if this power we're feeling is too much? He thought to himself. What if what comes next isn't something we can control? A well of questions swirled as he looked at Maria, who was lost in the beauty of the moment. She had always believed in their potential, in their ability to overcome anything. But even hope comes with uncertainty. Just then, lightning cracked loudly, illuminating something else at the edge of the crowd. A figure stepped forward. It was a stranger, cloaked in shadows, watching the urn with an intensity that sent chills across Nolan's spine. What is this person doing here? He wondered, unease settling in the pit of his stomach. Could they be a threat? Or were they a part of whatever transformation was unfolding in front of them? As the celebration continued, Nolan's heart pounded as he realized that the night had just begun to unravel its secrets, and he felt the weight of fate pressing heavily against him. What did this mean for all of them? In that moment, one thing was clear: the urn had ignited something deeper than mere nostalgia. It beckoned for discovery, change, and perhaps even danger. What challenges awaited them now, with this stranger in their midst? Would they be ready to embrace the truth hidden within the storm? The stranger moved subtly through the crowd, their presence shifting the air around them. Nolan couldn't take his eyes off the figure, cloaked in darkness, as if they were a ghost drifting through their celebration. What were they waiting for? What did they want from this sacred moment? Maria's laughter filled his ears, grounding him back to the present. It was infectious, a sound that pulled the townsfolk closer in joy. But Nolan felt a shiver pass through him, like that flicker of a candle extinguished too quickly. He knew he couldn't let fear grip him, especially not now. Do you see that person? He asked Maria, his voice low, almost drowned out by the chorus of song. She turned, her eyes narrowing as she squinted toward the stranger. Yeah, I do, she admitted, her brow furrowing. What do you think they want? I don't know, he replied, swallowing hard. But there's something off about them. She reached for his hand, squeezing it gently. That small connection steadied him, a tether against the chaos brewing inside. They shared a single heartbeat, even amidst the booming thunder above. The images on the urn began to shift, flickering faster than before. They showed moments of love and loss intertwined, a dance of joy suddenly shadowed by hardship. Nolan strained to make sense of it all. Were these just echoes of the past? Or a warning of something that was yet to come? Then the stranger stepped closer, raising a hand to gesture toward the urn, their movements fluid, yet deliberate. If Nolan didn't know better, he would swear the figure was trying to communicate with it, as if a hidden dialogue was occurring before their eyes. A ripple of tension swept through the crowd, voices ebbing as confusion replaced joy. What are they doing? Nolan asked, his heart pounding fiercely in his chest. I think they might know something, Maria whispered back, bewildered. But why are they hiding? Before he could answer, bright flashes erupted from the urn, a flurry of new images cascading outward, dancing through the storm. Faces transformed into a haunting blend of joy and despair. There was a moment he recognized the town hall meeting where the community came together to save their beloved library from closing. Memories flooded in, entwined with the present atmosphere. The stranger's gaze remained locked on the urn, their cloak billowing as if caught in an unseen wind. Suddenly, they turned to the crowd and raised their voice, cutting through the disarray. The power within this urn, it holds more than just stories. It encases the very essence of who you are. But it must be set free. Confusion buzzed through the assembly as murmurs raced like lightning through the crowd. What does that even mean? Someone called out, searching for clarity. I can help you unlock its true potential, but it requires bravery. The stranger continued, their tone both haunting and inviting. You must be willing to confront what lies hidden, the burdens of your past. The uncertainty hanging in the air felt like a lead weight. Nolan's thoughts collided with each other as he grappled with a rising sense of fear and excitement. Did this stranger really hold the answers? And if so, what would be asked of them? Maria, we have to decide. Do we trust them? He asked, conflict churning inside him. Can we afford not to? She responded, her eyes gleaming with determination behind the worry. As the crowd began to whisper amongst themselves, the energy vibrated like a taut string ready to snap. The moment was heavy with possibility, anticipation hanging thick, as uncertainty coiled around them like smoke. Just then, the urn pulsed, a powerful wave radiating outward connecting every heart in the gathering. Willingness to take a leap for their future or retreat into the safety of the past weighed heavily on them all. Would they stand together, armed with their shared history and newfound courage? Or would darkness take root, silencing the light they had just rekindled? Each decision felt monumental. With one last glance at the stranger, the crowd held its breath, poised on the edge of revelation. What awaited them on the other side of grasping the truth? The crowd swayed like a living organism, every heart keeping time with the pulse of the urn. Nolan felt Maria's fingers tighten around his, drawing him deeper into the moment. He could sense the collective uncertainty, the mix of hope and fear humming through the assembly. People whispered urgently, grappling with the decision that loomed over them all. Are we ready for this? He asked, barely above a whisper. Maria nodded, her eyes bright with something he couldn't quite name. Whatever's inside that urn is a part of us. It could change everything. Just as she spoke, the stranger stepped forward, reaching out toward the urn with both hands, their movements smooth and fluid. The air trembled as the shadows danced around them, swirling with an energy that felt alive. Nolan felt a shiver run down his spine, a sense that they were at a critical juncture, a tipping point that could reshape all they held dear. You, who stand before this vessel, must understand its power, the stranger asserted, their voice growing stronger, echoing off the surrounding trees. It's not just a collection of memories, it's a map of your fears and triumphs. But it's also a key to unlocking your hidden strength. Nolan glanced across the sea of faces, realizing that echoing his own uncertainty were glimmers of resolve. Some were clasping hands, others nodding as they grasped the gravity of the moment. There were the library advocates, mothers shielding their children, and the elderly who watched with a mixture of nostalgia and eagerness. Are you ready to face what was buried deep within? The stranger called out, voice ringing with challenge. You have the chance to revive not just your memories, but to sow seeds of hope for tomorrow. Nolan felt a surge of courage as he watched the way people leaned in, drawn closer to the urn, seeking connection. It was as if their deepest fears materialized in that flickering glow, a quiet acknowledgement that they had all suffered but could emerge together. Yet, beneath that burgeoning hope was the uncertainty gnawing at his stomach. What truths would they unearth, and at what cost? Let us do it, Maria said decisively, turning towards Nolan. Her expression was fierce, laced with an unyielding resolve that ignited something deep within him. If we don't take this chance, we could lose what makes us who we are. Nolan considered her words carefully. Every choice they faced now seemed to pack an emotional punch, like the charged air before a storm. Choices made in love, in fear. Could they stand together against the tide that sought to pull them apart? With a deep breath, he nodded. Let us break the silence, he said, voice steadier now. Together. As he joined hands with Maria, others began to step forward, mirroring their action. The crowd shifted in unison, a tidal wave of willingness spilling into the space. Behind the stranger, the urn shimmered, the images dancing faster, brighter, drawing everyone in. The tension coiled tighter, every heart drumming out a wild rhythm as the stranger lifted an arm, signaling them to focus. Then gather close. Embrace your shadows, for they have lessons to teach you. The moment shattered with an electric charge, and the air thickened, crackling with anticipation as Nolan felt the full weight of what they were about to undertake. But just as collective breaths were held, ready to embark on this shared journey, the stranger's voice faltered slightly, a fleeting moment of hesitation that echoed through the air. "And be warned, the truth can heal, but it can also consume." Fear rippled through Nolan as the crowd stirred uneasily. The glow from the urn pulsed again, its light dimming for a heartbeat before flaring back to life. What were they about to awaken? Suddenly, the urn erupted in a spectral blaze, the figures swirling into a storm of disembodied whispers and flashes of memory. Would they be able to face what lay ahead? Or would the past prove too overwhelming? With hearts racing, they were all too aware of the path they had just committed to. The hushed tension stretched infinitely, an unbroken promise of what awaited them just beyond this threshold. What dark, uncharted waters would they have to navigate to find their light? The swirling images from the urn crescendoed into a whirlpool of shadows and brilliance, igniting memories like sparks dancing in the stormy night. Nolan stood transfixed, clutching Maria's hand, feeling the tremor of fear and curiosity vibrating through their shared grip. The crowd gasped as figures began to emerge more clearly. Blurred faces turned into images of joy and sorrow, laughter and tears echoing across the fabric of their past. "Look!" someone shouted, pointing to the scene unfolding before them. The crowd leaned in, faces illuminated by the flickering light, their collective breaths held in anticipation. The echoes of a town hall erupted around them, fierce debates over community plans, a joyous birthday party where everyone was welcome, hard goodbyes at a farewell party. "What is this?" Nolan murmured, half to himself, half towards Maria. "Are we reliving it?" "Yes," she replied, voice tight with emotion. "Every moment, every choice brought us here. We can't ignore it anymore." The stranger turned, eyes gleaming with a knowing urgency. "See how your past shapes your present? You must confront the grief along with the joy. Only then will you embody the true essence of your community." Nolan's heart raced at the challenge. This wasn't just about facing the past, it was about embracing both the darkness and the light. After years of isolation, he realized that this was the catharsis he needed. The scene shifted, now playing the more painful memories, losses etched into their community, the worn faces of those left behind, tears staining the visions of a town coming to grips with a slow decline. He could see himself swirling in despair, having isolated himself, running from responsibility and engagement. He felt raw, exposed. Next to him, Maria checked her breath, visibly shaken but resolute. "We can't run from this. It's part of who we are." With her encouragement, he nodded, knowing the truth laid before them was daunting but necessary. Courage surged through him, a domino effect. The townsfolk rallied, eyes widening with recognition of their shared histories, some even tearfully laughing as fleeting moments of joy appeared in tandem with the sorrow. "Together we can face this." Nolan's voice rang out, a loud rallying cry shattering the hesitance before him. "Together we must reclaim each story that has been buried." As if propelled by a collective force, the crowd erupted in cheers. They ignited the silence around them, the energy palpably shifting as hands reached out to one another. The air crackled with urgency, the kind of spark only found among those daring to face their fears. The stranger smiled, almost imperceptibly, watching as unity surged like a tidal wave. "This is your moment. Embrace your truth." Suddenly, the urn pulsed once more, and images became a chaotic swirl, visages overlapping and dancing feverishly. Nolan stepped forward instinctively, nudging Maria beside him. They made a silent promise, resolute in their commitment not just to each other but to the community that had begun to take shape around them. In a heartbeat, a bright light exploded from the urn, illuminating everything in sight. The warmth cloaked Nolan, embracing him as if welcoming him home. Laughter rang out, intermixed with cries of release. And within that bright embrace, he swore he could see shimmering threads, lifelines that wove through their hands, binding each person to the next. You'll never grow weary of love or laughter if you carry each other's burdens, the stranger proclaimed, voice booming like the thunder rumbling overhead. Know your light and never let it wane. And suddenly, it clicked, everything fell into place. They were the architects of their future, standing on the precipice of transformation. With every heartbeat, they could rewrite their stories, redefine their community, and embrace the power born from overcoming hurdles hand in hand. As the storm began to subside, a gentle rain fell, washing over them, a baptism symbolizing renewal. Nolan looked around, joy swelling within him. Families were hugging, friends were laughing. And long-separated neighbors exchanged heartfelt glances filled with understanding. They had awoken something within the heart of the town, a love that ran deeper than any flood could wash away. In that heart-stirring moment, Nolan turned to Maria, her presence grounding him. "We did it," he murmured, overwhelmed as the warmth of connection seeped through him. "We found hope." She smiled brightly, her eyes shimmering with determination. "Now let us make sure it lasts." From that night forward, they forged ahead, hand in hand with their community, prioritizing connection over isolation. Together they planned future festivals celebrating their shared history, healed past wounds, and cultivated a garden of compassion, siblinghood, hope, laughter, and love, a living testament to new beginnings. As the season turned once more, the phoenix stood proudly in the square, a symbol of everything they had fought to reclaim. And as echoes of laughter filled the air during the next harvest festival, Nolan and Maria understood that their journey had just begun, a collective story forever being woven through laughter, bravery, resilience, and the unbreakable bonds of community. And in the very heart of their small town, where once stood shadows, now flourished the effulgence of a family unified against whatever storms lay ahead. And so, dear friends, as you reflect on this powerful journey of transformation, subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and feelings about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. This is the moment to show your support and help light up the stories yet to come. You need to subscribe now. Don't wait not even one more second to share your favorite moments with others who need to feel this kind of hope.